Hello and welcome. I'm your host Elizibar, and we're going to talk about this. But before I get into this IDW stuff, I want to point out who I found this from: Nicholas Mueller, uh, the Ravenloft, and he's the creator of Demon Hunter Raven, among other properties. And I saw this a little while ago, and I decided to check it out. And I just opened the article up, so we're going to take a look at that together. But before we get into that, look at this. IDW goes dark, lays off 39% of their staff. So they delisted themselves from the New York Stock Exchange. Never a good sign. They're probably trying to avoid turning into a penny stock or something and things getting real weird for them. And lays off 39% of their staff. That's a lot, potentially a lot of people. I don't know how big the company is. I didn't dig into their financials or anything. And to be honest, I really don't care. But it makes me wonder how many people they actually have on staff and what they do. Because think about it. IDW is that publisher that puts out like two comic books a year. Well, okay, two comic book series like in a month. There we go. That's a better way to put it. There's like two titles a month. One's going to be a Ninja Turtles title, the other is some other licensed comic. And they've had a variety of licenses over the years. They've had the Buffy the Vampire license. They've had the Hasbro World license. So that includes G.I. Joe, Transformers, that one with the dudes that had the holograms on their chest. What was that, Luminaries? Okay, I guess the Hasbro bench gets kind of shallow at that point, but you get the idea. They got a lot of that licensed material, and they've also got a lot of stuff that's homegrown. Lock and Key, for example, wasn't like 50 Days of Night or whatever that book was. Wasn't that also like one of their titles? I probably got the title of that wrong because it's been a long time since I've saw the movie or read one of those books. But it's the one about like vampires in Alaska where it's night for weeks straight. 30 days a night, something like that. Whatever. Somebody right now is typing an angry reply down there. I'm sorry, okay? I'm doing this off the cuff. I didn't plan this. All right. So that's what I'm thinking of when I think of this company. They put out like two books a month. Maybe three, maybe four. But they're not exactly like DC putting out 40 titles a month, or I don't know. DC doesn't seem to put out that many titles a month, except they're all Batman books. So whatever. It doesn't seem like a company that requires more than like 20 people to run. Except one thing. This company is also home to people who have ambitions of being media moguls. They want to get into streaming stuff. I think they have a software, like a game division. I don't know if it's like all software or if there's board games or card games or whatever mixed up into that. But they have like a gaming division. They have like the where we want to make a movie division. And they, as an organization, seem to have kind of shifted some of their ambitions towards that media stuff instead of the comic publishing. And who could blame them? Comic sales are terrible, but if you sell a couple spec scripts, you can make the same money you made from like 4 issues of comic book as the person who wrote it. Like, it's crazy. This whole market is nuts. Let's take a look here. Hopefully, that is not what I wanted to do. Thank you. Hopefully, down here somewhere is some stuff about. Whoo, yeah, they definitely wanted to avoid becoming a penny stock. Yikes. The son of the owner became the CEO. Okay, yeah, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign at all. Wall, da 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 da, founded 1999, da 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 da, going dark, da 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 da. Board determined that going dark is the best path for the company due to expected cost savings, reduction of pressure, and limited resources. The company's current inability to realize many of the benefits from continued listing and da da da. Yeah, they didn't want to get like crushed. Like the market was going to crush them. They're trying to avoid that. Big whoop. Cuts are expected to lead to about $4 million in annual savings. $0.9 million being paid out in severance. What does that work out to? Like, if you assume that somebody's making $50,000, you got to double that. That's like 44 people, right? Like $100,000. Yeah. So it's probably like 40 employees. Maybe a few more, maybe a few less. Depends, where they're living and stuff. Like, that's probably a good ballpark figure to think about. And if you're wondering where that comes from, like, somebody's making $50,000. They're not somebody that's got a real cushy gig. And then the company has to pay like payroll taxes and stuff, and all those expenses kind of come to about double. Like that, so 40 people. It's probably a few on the smaller side because they got rid of some executives up aboard, so there's probably a couple people making a couple $100,000 out the door. But hey, whatever. As reported, they reported a $335,000 loss for the publishing division, down from a modest profit of $500,000. Sales were down a bunch, okay, but book channels, so that's like Scholastic, was up. You don't make as much money selling graphic novels and stuff, especially if they're going to like book fairs and things like that. That market is very heavily cornered by Scholastic, and it's vicious. So I'm not necessarily surprised that even though this went up by way more than that, that they lost money. Now, there could be other reasons too. Their expenses might be higher, and they probably are, and that sort of stuff. Reported decline in revenue of $2 million from the games division, which released Batman Adventures in 2022. I don't know, like, is that a board game? I don't know that I've ever heard of this. And IDW Entertainment, that's their streamings and movie stuff. Revenue declined from $4.3 million to nothing due to the absence of Lock and Key. Yeah, okay. This thing goes on forever, and it doesn't actually say that much. Oh, we're just quoting an entire press release? Okay, we're just quoting an entire press release here. And this looks like gibberish. Don't bother reading this. It doesn't say anything. No, when I think about this, the streaming stuff is probably one big facet of it, but another is probably this. Hasbro yanked their license for G.I. Joe and Transformers. Like, Hasbro pulled their license, and when you've been publishing this stuff for like a decade, and you have a pretty steady customer base, losing that recurring, persistent revenue really sucks. You don't want to be in their shoes, because their shoes right now, they're losing out on, $250,000 or something per book. Like, if you're publishing a G.I. Joe title, you're selling, say, 10,000 copies to stores. You're making like $1 per copy as the publisher. That's $10,000 a month. That's $120,000 a year. You also got a book from the other franchise. That's another $250,000, or that's another $120,000. So it totals up to about $250,000 in profit, or maybe just revenues. But still, that's a solid chunk of money, and losing that sucks. And of course, IDW wasn't just publishing one Transformers book and one Joe book a month. There was usually like a mini series or two going on for each of these titles at the same time. And that also is a bad estimate of their sales, because I haven't pulled up Comic-Con to try to figure out how many books they're schlepping. But my point is, you can kind of see, if you know you have this dependable revenue stream and you lose it, it kind of sucks. And I think this and the streaming ambitions kind of explain what's going on with IDW. They wanted to become media moguls instead of just people who sold comic books. And it hurt the company, and it's probably going to hurt the owners of the company. I don't know if they'll be able to recover gracefully from this, but for the sake of having more competition in the comic book market, I sure hope the company can recover from this. And I also, don't like it when people get fired in general. Like, it sucks, Jimmy Joe Bob over there is like their office intern or something, and he's been making coffee faithfully and photocopying stuff, and now he's out the door because some executive made a bad decision. That sucks to be Jimmy Joe Bob. Just saying. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. If you hadn't heard about this, you've now heard about it. If you had heard about it, maybe I told you something new. I don't know. But I think that this thing right here that we're looking at is probably a big part of what's going on fundamentally. They shifted their priorities, and they lost the stuff that helped keep them afloat. You all take care of yourselves. You have a great day. And hopefully nobody calls me out on getting that vampire book name wrong, because I know I got it wrong. Bye-bye.